Hi, I'm Bill Arnold. Thank you for listening to this podcast. There are many more podcasts available at myfaithradio.com. Your support makes this possible. Thank you.
Of all the people that listen to my show, I have to say you are pretty much my favorite. Let's get started.
Oh, don't you know, it's the Bill Arnold Show. It's Bill.
And a warm welcome to the Bill Arnold Show. I am the Bill Arnold part of that short sentence. If you had a professor and you called her a walking exclamation point, you would be so spot on, because that is a great description of my guest today, Dr. Heather Holleman. She's joining me. It's been several months since she's been on. She's an advanced writing professor at Penn State, loves to speak all around to big audiences to help them connect deeply with Jesus and with one another. She is such a great guest. I love having her on. Heather, so nice to have you back.
Well, hello. It's been a while. I look forward to this all year. I feel like it's been too long.
I know. I say that too. I said to Wyatt, when do we get Heather back on? And he said, well, she's really, really busy.
Well, I was teaching classes and doing a lot in ministry. And so now that my semester's ended, I was like, let's get this scheduled. So I can't wait. I always learn so much from you. We always have a great time.
Mm-hmm. What's been encouraging for you lately?
The biggest thing that's encouraging me is how much I'm still learning about having better conversations and how you can have really warm connections with people if you can just find a good question to ask them. So what's encouraging me is how the Lord is really helping me have wonderful friendships. I love my relationship with my children, my husband, and it really has to do with not only asking good conversation questions, but that follow-up question and then learning. I'm continuing to learn. It's been 6 years since I wrote the 6 Conversations book, just continuing to learn how to bless people with loving connections.
And Heather,
that's encouraging me. What about you? I need to know at least one thing encouraging you.
Well, there's been such sadness and joy in my life in the last week. I've been to 3 funerals in 5 days.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
Wow.
But when the people have hope in the Lord and they know where they are going and where they went, it is a much different experience, because only Christians can walk away with tears of joy and that hope that you know that you're going to see him again.
That's right. That's beautiful. But I'll tell you, a lot of my work with Better Conversations has to do with people that are grieving. And I've learned so much about how to ask good questions of people who are grieving. It's a hard place to be in because it's so disoriented. Do you want to hear my favorite question I learned to ask?
I do, yes.
All right. So when you have a friend that is grieving, you can say to them, what thought keeps going through your mind that you can't get rid of? Because a lot of people that are grieving ruminate on certain things, and they sometimes have a hard time. They feel really isolated. So if you can ask your grieving friend, like, hey, what do you feel like your mind's really working through? And sometimes they'll want to share a memory. Sometimes they may have a difficult emotion they're working through. And then the other question I love is when people are grieving, don't forget to ask them, how is your body experiencing the grief? Because my grieving friends often talk about how hard grief is on the body. It's really dehydrating, believe it or not, because of the tears. And it can really be bad on people get nausea, migraines. So those are my questions I'm finding help me have warm connections with people that are grieving. And they're very grateful because, again, grief is disorienting and isolating.
Yeah, it is very disorienting. Now, it's been 6 years. I can't believe that, because I think we had you on the program in the first year of your book, The 6 Conversations. And I know I've read your book 2 or 3 times, and I don't reread books very often. But I really had to have your principles, your 6 dimensions. I needed them in my brain. So if anybody said, what are 6 dimensions of good human experience when it comes to dialogue, I could check them off pretty quickly.
Do you have a category that you like to ask questions in, because we're finding as Ash and I travel all over and do workshops for churches and ministries, sometimes people get overwhelmed. They think, I can't remember 6 categories. But I say just pick 1 or 2. Like my favorite is the cognitive category. So I love asking my friends, what have you been thinking about this week? Or even today, I love this question. I asked my friend Nicole this question. Hey, tell me what you've been working through today.
Ooh, that's really good.
Because I know, do you love that? Like, hey,
I
what are you
love that.
working through? And it's not like it leads to some deep, therapeutic conversation or whatever, but it allows your friend to unburden and be like, yeah, I'm really working through this complex family situation. And then the other thing my husband and I are learning is just ending a conversation with encouragement or pointing people to divine activity. Conversations can really become like a sacred place of worship. So I love asking cognitive questions. Do you have a category that you like the social or the physical? Do you have one you always kind of land in?
Well, it seems because when you have these conversations with people and they say, well, so what do you do? I'll usually say something to the effect of, well, I host an afternoon radio show on Christian radio. So we're going to talk about Jesus now or later, but either way, we're going to talk about him. And it kind of disarms them a little bit.
I love that.
Because
that's something I would say. I love that.
Oh, yeah. I figured you would like that. And then because you can do news, weather, and sports for only a short amount of time, I want to know what makes you tick.
No, that's absolutely right. In fact, I tell my friends, hey, I'm a Christian. Does it bother you that I talk so much about Jesus? And nobody ever says no. Or, no one ever says, yeah, you're talking about Jesus too much. It's sort of like putting bells on it. No, I do not like sports. Well, actually, you can start off with a weather question. Like it's been raining here in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
So I love saying to people, hey, are you a rain person? Do you enjoy the rain? You can actually get a really good story about rain. And with sports, I love asking how long questions, like how long have you been a Packers fan, or who introduced you to, the Steelers or whatever it is. You can get a lot going after that first conversation question. So always remember, the second question is the one that will open up the conversation, not really the first one.
Yeah. And Heather, I think you taught me to always be as specific as you can be, because specificity always sells. So instead of me asking, how have you been feeling lately, I will usually say, what's your energy level been like lately?
Oh, that's good. I always say it's more about the weak verb. Is that what you're remembering? Like if it's not a specific word?
Yes.
Okay. And this is rooted in the neuroscience of mirror neurons, which is actually documented research that if you use words that the brain can't picture, it creates too much stress on the brain. So if I said, Bill, how was your week? You're going to say, fine. But if I say, hey, or how was the funeral? I could say, hey, what surprised you most about those funerals that you went to? Your brain is going to picture what surprised you, and we will have a very rich conversation. Because if I said, how was a funeral? I can guarantee you'll say, fine. But if I ask it with a strong verb, you'll have a story to tell me, something will come to mind.
Mm-hmm. I would have thought you would have said to me, did you cry at the funeral?
Because are you someone that normally doesn't cry?
Yeah. Or was it so emotional that you found yourself moved to tears, or did you not cry? Because, you look around and some people are crying, some people aren't.
It's interesting. Now this is a whole new conversation. I don't know enough about tears. Do you know a lot about tears? Just some people not cry when they're sad?
Yes.
Because they emote a different way. Maybe they do. Like, what if you're not going to cry, what would you do instead?
Yeah.
For grief.
Yeah. I mean, I've cried every day the last 5 days, and I'm probably not done.
Oh, do you find that crying, though, is a relief?
Yes.
I do too.
Yes.
It's underestimated. It kind of feels good to cry. Now, you don't have to answer these questions because I know it's your interview, but were these close friends that it was unexpected that they passed away?
2 of them, yes. 1 of them, no. I mean, one was a longtime family friend, and the other 2 were friends.
Yeah, this is hard. Are you taking good care of yourself?
Oh, yes. Yes. I've got good
What does that
routines.
mean? I need to know, like, how do you take care of yourself? This is a great question to ask people. Like, what
Yeah.
does it mean to take care of yourself? And then I'll tell you what I like.
Okay, I've got good routines. I've got I go to my disciplines. I make sure I get good fresh food for dinner. I sit in my sauna, which I have in my basement, which I love, and I cool off, take a nice shower, climb in bed, have some prayer time, and get good sleep.
Okay, I want a sauna. I don't have a sauna. I gotta go tell my husband we need a sauna.
Yeah, they're not luxuries; they're necessities.
Well, I just feel like that'd be so cleansing to be in a sauna. And so many countries do that. They have, where like that's a big part of the way they cleanse their bodies is through sauna.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's wonderful. No, I love the disciplines, the rituals, good fresh food. Does that mean like vegetables? Is that what you're talking about? Do you grill out a lot? What are you doing?
I do
for food?
grill. I do grill, and I love eating fermented vegetables.
Are you serious? Are you a kimchi person?
Oh, I love kimchi. Yeah.
I love kimchi too. This is rare. We
You
now
like
have this
kimchi?
in common. I love kimchi,
Okay.
so we are going to be friends. Our families need to hang out. My
Mm-hmm.
husband does not like kimchi. He doesn't like the smell of it. He doesn't like to be anywhere near it, but I love kimchi. I love all Korean food, and I especially love kimchi. And I love pickles, all kinds of pickles.
Mm-hmm.
I have pickled okra. What is the strangest thing you've ever eaten that's pickled?
Well, it wouldn't be okra. I'd have to think about that because I do experiment with just about every pickled food I can get my hands on.
I did not know this about you.
Yeah.
Now,
yeah.
if I need to send a gift, it will be a pickle collection.
That would be nice.
So,
Yeah,
no,
I
I
look
love
forward to
it.
that.
How delightful. Praise God for pickled things. I love I love pickles. So that's fun.
One thing, Heather, I struggle with a little bit is when people say, what is something you're hoping to do next? I got to work on the bucket list or at least on projection of activities down the road that I can look forward to because I don't do that very well.
Have you always been that way?
Pretty much.
So well, there's a benefit to this. You're someone who kind of is where you are. You live in the moment and you don't like to plan far ahead. Is that right? Or is it more like you get afraid of the possibilities?
Probably more the first one. I just don't do a lot of planning ahead, which is not a good quality, I know. But I get into a routine that I just love. And I love life. So there you go.
Well, do we have to have plans? This is a great conversation. I mean, do we have to have big plans?
Doesn't everybody say, well, do you have any vacations coming up? What are you doing this summer kind of thing? And so
some people ask that.
Yeah.
That's in the volitional category, and it sounds like that's not your love language. That's not the category. I mean, Gary Chapman wrote the foreword to the book because he says these are like love languages.
Mm-hmm.
This would be a category that it sounds like this would stress you out. If I'm like, hey, what are you going to decide to do next? Or things related
that would
to
stress
the
me out.
future.
Yeah.
Yeah, and my husband does not like necessarily the emotional category. He'd rather me ask questions related to physical processes or cognitive questions. Like he loves the question, hey, how are you making sense of that?
Oh, I like that.
But I agree that volitional is a hard category. But if you notice, one of the things that Ash and I've learned in having better conversations is when you ask a question and you can tell that it stresses someone out. Our new favorite quote is, let what is going wrong in conversation become the topic of conversation.
Ooh.
So I would say to you, it sounds like you do not like answering questions about the future. And I tried to go there by saying, like, have you always been that way? But we could have a really good conversation being like, okay, you don't enjoy talking about future plans. Do you ever wonder if it's because you tried to plan in the future and it didn't go well? I would love to know the story. Or
interesting.
I could say, it sounds like you don't like questions like that. What is your favorite kind of question? Do you love to talk about your friends? Do you love home improvement? One of the things you can do with your friends is just tell them, hey, here's the question that I'm secretly hoping that you'll ask me. This is what I love to talk about.
No, that's really, really smart, Heather. And so I love the idea that you take a conversation. When the conversation starts to train wreck, you then talk about the train wreck.
Exactly. That will save you from awkwardness, embarrassment. It will save you if you feel like you've offended someone. So for example, if I'm, at a volleyball game and I mention to someone like, It's hard to be at practice on Sunday because I really miss going to church. Are you a churchgoer? And your conversation partner immediately freezes and they look away from you. They're mad that you even brought up a religious topic. What you can say to them, hey, I noticed that when I mentioned church, you really bristled. And so now I'm really curious. Did you have a bad experience with church? I'd be honored to hear that story. So it works so much. Like it works with students, my colleagues, my neighbors. Like if something is awkward, I just say, look, that was really awkward. I'm so sorry. I would love to hear more about like what just happened. So you're never going to get lost starting or continuing a conversation again.
That I like a lot. And it seems the way you said that, Heather, so invitational when you said it seems like when I mentioned that you bristled a little bit and it didn't sound like you were probing or being in their face. It sounded like you were gentle and invitational and that might draw it out of them.
Yeah. And you always want to remember the goal of conversation is warm connection, not
Yes.
winning an argument. So like yesterday was the primaries, in Pennsylvania, a lot of political conversations going on. Instead of like if you're connecting with someone that believes different things than you or votes differently, instead of trying to win an argument with them, just say, hey, I noticed how much you care about this candidate. I want to know the story behind when you first started caring about those issues. Even using the word story is a delight to the brain. We're wired for narrative. Just say, hey, tell me the story about that. I even say that when I compliment someone's jean jacket or something that they're wearing. I'll say, I love your jean jacket. I got to know the story behind this jacket. You will have great conversations if you just ask people, hey, tell me the story behind that. And it will help you if you feel like, oh, I'm in a tense political or theological conversation here. What do I do? Remember, the goal is warm connection, not winning an argument. So you stay curious and use the word story, and that will really help you.
Yeah, I like that. Let's take a little break. Wyatt, what's the story behind your shirt?
The story behind my shirt?
Yeah, was it a Christmas present?
Was indeed. Fairly new, but it was a Christmas
Isn't that funny,
present.
Heather? I already asked him that earlier today.
I love it. I can't even see. I don't get to see Wyatt. Are you wearing a cool
it's
shirt?
a great shirt, yeah.
It is a great shirt, yeah.
No, who gave you that?
It was my mother-in-law, actually.
I figured because that's a really nice item.
It is a very nice
It looks
item,
good
so.
on you too.
I bought my shirt on TikTok. You can ask me later why I shop on TikTok. There's a story behind why I shop on
right.
TikTok alone.
I will do that. We're talking to Dr. Heather Holleman. If you have a question or comment for our discussion, please let me know what it is, and you can text it over to 877 933 2484. It is my deepest desire that you take the very first step of faith by placing your faith and trust in Jesus Christ. If you've got questions about what it means to begin a relationship with Jesus, text the word faith to 41224. I'm back with Dr. Heather Holleman. She wrote a book called The 6 Conversations. She's written a lot of books, 7 or 8. What's the number, Heather?
12. And I have a new one coming out, and I'm going to work on I just sent a bunch of proposals out. I just love writing. So I'm finishing the young adult series. The last one comes out in July. And then I might add on to the Seated and Sent catalog and write another book kind of on what I've learned on evangelism.
The Seated and Sent is an awesome book. Those are great books.
Yes, Seated with Christ and Sent has really shaped the whole new ministry that my husband Ash and I founded. So we do a lot of coaching of churches and ministries that if you get your Seated with Christ identity right, and then you understand your sent life, it just shapes a whole purpose and foundation for happiness for your life. You'll feel really close to Jesus. It's kind of a whole different way to live.
Mm-hmm. Heather, are your parents still alive?
My parents are still alive. They live in Virginia. They retired down in Williamsburg.
And then how often do you see them?
Well, I did see them more when my girls were growing up. I always wanted to bring the grandkids down as much as I could. Now my girls are grown and I'm trying to get down there at least twice a year. But believe it or not, even though I'm in Pennsylvania, it's like an 8-hour drive. If any of your listeners have been on 95, it is a nightmare. And there are no good airports. So even if I would have to fly on several different regional planes. So I just saw them last month, and I
Mm-hmm.
may come down one more time in the summer. But no, my parents, they are loving life in Williamsburg.
Oh, good. And when is your birthday?
November. Why? November. What about yours?
Mine's April 1st.
Really? Oh, that's right. I knew this about you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Were
my
you
mom,
just curious
I was
about
curious.
my?
I was curious. I'm thinking about birthdays today because my mom's birthday is today, and
Oh,
she went home to be with the Lord 8 years ago. But it's her birthday today, so I just have a little
that's sweet.
little
So
soft
you have
spot.
you been thinking about her all day? What's your
all day.
favorite thing to remember about her?
She had such a she was so resilient, and she had such a cute sense of humor, and she always made kind of a cute little joke of herself.
Aw.
So she always took the hit really well. She was great.
Is this where you got your sense of humor from?
Probably. My dear mom at age 52 had been widowed 3 times.
What?
Yeah, she lost 3 husbands by
Widowed
age.
3 times?
Yeah, she buried 3 husbands by 52.
Was it cancer?
2 heart attacks and kind of an infection from an operation.
3 times.
Yeah.
So she was no stranger to grief
She was
and having to rebuild her life.
no stranger to grief. Yeah.
I think resilience is the right word.
Yeah. And I said, Mom, how'd you do it? And she said, she had 4 kids under 5 years old. And she said, Saturday nights, she said I would, we'd put on a little play or something in the living room, and then I would go down and fold diapers, because those were cloth diapers back in those days. And she said I would fold 4 and then use the 5th one to wipe my tears. And I said, God, you're going to get me through this.
Yes. He does get us through.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I'm completely off track now. I don't know even how to find my way back. Start talking about my mom and I get all emotional.
Do you enjoy talking about her? You enjoy people?
I do. I've had conversations with my sisters today, and we've had lots of smiley stories about her and lots of happy thoughts. That's all.
It's a great legacy. You have kids, right?
Nope.
You don't?
Nope.
Because I was going to say it's a great legacy in your life that she was resilient and she overcame a lot.
Yeah, she was great.
I love that.
Yep. She always had a very kind word. She was in assisted care towards the end, and as we were moving her things out, I saw a couple of her caregivers, and I said, "Did my mom ever show grumpiness or a little bit of orneriness or a little bit short tempered?" And they looked at me like, "Oh no, your mom was never any of that." And
wow.
I was always so blessed by that, because I don't know, I'm getting a little bit crankier as I get older, and my mom was not cranky.
I wonder what her secret was to positivity and joy. Probably her relationship with the Lord, it sounds like.
It was the relationship with the Lord.
She had a grateful heart. I love that.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about good conversations, about how to be curious, believe the best, express concern, and share your life. Would you review those for us?
Yes, they're just the mindsets you need in order to form a warm connection. They come out of the social science research, but really, if you're reading your Bible, it's Philippians 2, Romans 12, Galatians 6. These are all kind of the instructions on how to live a really fruitful life and how to live in community with people. So you're curious about people, and this means you actively are asking meaningful, generous questions. I talked to someone today who had a house guest for 2 days, and this person did not ask her one question about her life. That's what it's like. I mean, I talk to, students all the time. They're like, yeah, nobody's asking each other anything. They're all using, AI, artificial intelligence for these conversations, with computers, but not with people. And then you're going to believe the best about people. And one way to do that is position yourself that you can learn from anyone, and that every conversation could be a divine appointment or a moment that God has orchestrated, and it keeps you full of wonder and searching as you're talking to that person. And then you're going to express concern. And what I mean by that is just, that's why I love the question, hey, what have you been working through this week? And then what we're learning as we do these conversation workshops and continue to research is just when someone shares something difficult or something that they're working through, one of the best things you can do is empower them, encourage them, like God's word says, to, say what is helpful, encourage people, to build them up according to their needs. Ask people, you could say, that's really hard. I want to know how you think you're going to handle this, or what resources do you have? And go down your list of 6 conversational pathways. Do you have other friends supporting you? That's social. Tell me more about the emotions that go with this. That's emotional. Just go down your list. And then you're going to share your life. A lot of people don't know how to share their life. Believe it or not, when Asha and I give our workshop, he gives a story about how he's an introverted, more shy, reserved person, and he was terrible at sharing his life. So he really teaches audiences to be self-aware enough that what's going on. If someone were to ask you, hey, what have you been thinking about lately? Or what's your major stressor for this week? Or like, what upcoming decisions are you trying to make? That you're self-aware enough that you have something to contribute to the conversation to share your life.
Mm-hmm. Heather, give us a little counsel or coaching when you ask these really good questions. How important is it for us to be as succinct as we can in answering to keep the dialogue going?
Well, a lot of people monologue, meaning they'll go on and on and on. And sometimes I tell people, time yourself and just feel what like a minute or 2 minute feels like on your phone, and try not to talk longer than that. And then you want to always kind of like, if someone asks me a question, I want to have a question to ask back to them. Like if I'm sharing something that is difficulty during my week, I will say to them, what about you? Have you ever experienced anything like that? To invite them to share their life with me. So you always want to think, once I've shared, what kind of question can I ask my conversation partner so they're able to share their life?
Mm-hmm.
So not to talk forever and ever. Do you know people that go on and on and on? And I think it's okay to interrupt. If you have a conversation partner that is going on and on and on, you can interrupt them. Just say, hey, I really want to give you my full attention, but I'm losing energy here. Let's dialogue a little bit. You can tell people, be honest with them.
Well, I've thought that, but I've not ever told someone that. So encourage us in that department.
Well, one thing I say, if I have a friend that's talking and talking and talking, I can say to them, hey, can I just interrupt you? Because I'm learning a lot about conversational turn taking, and I really want to have a warm connection with you.
Ooh.
So can I insert something here? And then we go back and forth a little bit. Sometimes you have to actually model and even instruct your conversation partner, because so many people are so deficient in this area that it is totally okay to say to your friend, hey, I'm really learning how to have a better conversation. Do you want to practice with me asking each other really good questions and not talking for too long? But actually, monologuing isn't as much of a problem as people just not asking each other good questions. The number one problem is actually not people talking too much. It's that nobody's really asking good questions at all. Like, when was the last time someone asked you a really good question that you enjoyed answering?
Yeah, it's a good point. It's a really good point.
Yeah.
So I just am thinking that there are people that when they start talking, they're processing their thoughts as they're speaking, kind of like I did just there.
Yeah.
But
yes.
I have a tendency of wanting to have a quick rehearsal of my thought in my head before I open my mouth. And so there's different kinds of communicators. The one that says they're processing as they're talking, or they've already sort of determined what they're going to say and then they say it.
That's interesting. One thing, if I'm with someone that is processing as I'm as we're having the conversation, I'll notice it. I'll say, you seem like you're really thinking deeply about this. I have a long time. Let's just sit here as you get your thoughts together or whatever it is. Also, since my husband doesn't often think of what to say until like 2 weeks later, he makes that joke. He'll often go back, and it actually builds a warm connection. He'll go back to friends the next day and he'll say, hey, I was thinking about that conversation we had, and I actually thought of something that I wanted to say. So he'll extend the conversation because it's taken him that long to think through what he wanted to say. So if you're feeling that way, you're not alone. That's why Ash and I do the conversation workshops and trainings together, because he has such a different conversational style and he's had to learn so much how to form those warm connections because he doesn't think well on his feet and he's shy and introverted. But he jokes that he's proof of concept, because once you learn kind of the 6 conversational pathways and these principles, you can get so good at having a conversation. So, like, for example, what you were just processing through, I might have stopped you and said, okay, wait, it sounds like you're thinking deeply about something. What is going on in your mind right now? Were you going to ask me something and you weren't sure what you wanted to ask when you paused just there?
That's so good.
Were you thinking?
No,
Were
no,
you
I was trying to be. I've got filters on my brain because I want to make sure I'm so careful with the words I use on the radio because they're.
Oh, that's right, because we're on the radio.
You know
if we were in the coffee
we're
shop,
not on
it
the
might
coffee
be,
shop.
Yeah,
But you
that
know,
makes sense.
there's people that will say, "Well, let me tell you what happened." Let's see. It was Tuesday, and then I went. No, wait. It was Wednesday. It was
Right.
Wednesday, and I thought, well, you're kind of processing in the moment, which is nothing wrong with that. But if a person says Tuesday, I went to the doctor and had this appointment, and the results were good, boom, there we go. But if I get a lot of extra details, that's when I get just a tiny bit anxious.
One thing you can do, what we've learned, the number one thing I learned is to listen for what's called core values, even as people are talking. And you can say to a person like that, hey, it sounds like you're giving me a lot of detail. You really value like precision and getting things right. And I might even say, are you someone that likes to make sure your memories are completely accurate? Do you
Ooh.
get nervous if you make a mistake there? And they might say, yeah, because when I was little, I was accused of lying because I got a detail wrong. I mean, older people tend to do that. I don't know if you've noticed that. I turned 50. Older people tend to, it really matters to them that they're getting the memory right. And that's why couples will often correct each other. Like, no, it wasn't Tuesday. It was Wednesday. No, it wasn't at 9 o'clock. It's not because they're trying to be infuriating. It's because it matters that the memory is correct. But you can, again, make that the topic of conversation. You could say, hey, I noticed that it really matters to you that you get the timing right. I want to know more about that. Are you someone that loves to recount all the fine details of an experience? What would happen if you got that time wrong? I just want to know. And you'd be amazed at the conversations you can have with older people. Yeah, and just notice things. But sometimes if I'm getting impatient, it's because I've lost that sense of believing the best and being really curious about this other person, like you're on a treasure hunt. So just as they're talking, just listen to the details they're giving you and make comments about what you're noticing.
Okay.
So, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, let me just take a little break. We're running a little bit past break time. So I'll be right back with Dr. Heather Holleman. You can go check out her website, Heather Holleman, HOLLEMAN.com. Be right back. I'm back with Dr. Heather Holleman, talking about conversations and all kinds of stuff. And I was thinking during the break, Heather, that some people try to give advice, or they're too self-focused, or they're too concerned about how they're coming across, or they're offering judgment, or they're indicating some level of critical spirit. And right before the break, you used the word listen more than once. And I promise that must be the key to being a good dialoguer, a good conversationalist.
Listening is such an incredible skill to develop, because what people don't realize is what they're listening for. So what they're listening for is what's called core values. And the goal in conversation is to let your conversation partner know that you really heard them. And you're actually providing a great blessing to them by saying, hey, as you were talking, I can tell you really value, whatever it is. Like if we were at a coffee shop, I would say, Bill, I loved that story that you told of your mom. You mentioned like resilience a couple times. It's something that I can tell you really value. And it seems like you're going through a hard time this week, losing all of the friends and your mom had to grieve 3 husbands. Like, I just want to know more about what you're thinking about resilience. So, what that communicates to you is number one, I listened, but number two, I was trying to weave the threads together of things that you said to figure out if there's a coherent narrative there or even a way I can tell that God is at work. And it might be that I have a gift of evangelism, but I also believe that we're all called to be sent, as the Father has sent me, so I send you, is what Jesus says in John 20:21. So when you're sent into people's lives, you're actively asking yourself, God, how can I encourage this person? Show me what you see in them that I can encourage or help. Or could you help us, arrive at a state of worship or marveling? Now, the research says you want to end a conversation in one of 3 ways, which is encouragement, helping people grow, or marveling. And if you notice, advice giving isn't in that list.
I noticed that.
Yeah, helping people grow. If someone's coming to me for advice, that's different. But I like after this radio interview, a former student, is coming for help with medical school applications. So that is going to be a conversation designed for me to give advice. But always ask. If you're in a conversation, just say, hey, is this a moment where you want some advice or counsel? Or would you rather just have me ask questions to help you figure out what you're thinking? 9 times out of 10, the person's going to enjoy meaningful questions to help them discern what's going on, what they think. And remember, the word to remember is you want to empower people. Like if you were to share, more about your grief, I might say to you, Bill, okay, this is really hard. What's going through your mind about the best way that you know to handle grief? That way, I'm not giving you advice. I'm inviting you. I'm empowering you to think of a solution. And that really helps people, even in good boundaries. Like after this call, you don't want to be in a situation where I'm carrying that burden in a way that is more than God's asked me to carry. So when it says in Galatians to bear one another's burdens, it doesn't mean that you become like codependent or you're always in some weird therapeutic relationship. It just means I heard what you said. I'm going to encourage you. I'll probably pray about it later, but I'm really empowering you and helping you see the strength that you have in you and directing you to kind of God's resources, offering prayer, that kind of thing.
I really like that, Heather. And what you're doing is bringing a table into the room, and then you're asking me to put something on the table. So if I put something on the table, then we have something else to talk about.
Yeah, that's a good way to say it. I like that image. Like, here, I'm setting a table here. Oh, and then I can picture inviting Jesus to the table. Like, he's there. He's listening to us.
But you asked me how I could be resilient. You're not necessarily, you're asking me, do I know how to be resilient, or do you think that there's something out there you could do? And I'm putting something on the table that we can continue having discussion about.
That's right.
Yeah.
And if you're having a hard time and the person's like, I don't know, just say, I love this question. Have you ever been through something like this before? Because then you're helping people draw on resilience. That's what resilience is. I've been through this before. I know what to do. I'm trained,
Yeah.
That's what resilience is.
But being curious, too, and being able to listen carefully. I had Dr. Jerry Root on. He's from Billy Graham Evangelistic Society, and he said, I was in Chicago at Baggage, standing next to a guy, and all I asked to him was, are you home? And he said, well, yeah, I mean, Chicago's not my home. I grew up in Ohio, but we moved here at 13 when my parents got divorced. And all of a sudden, he goes,
that's right.
Wow, did I get a lot of information? And
I love that.
Yeah. And all he did was ask a question, a simple question, and then he remained curious.
Yeah. Remain curious. And if you get stuck and you don't know what next question to ask, you could even say, I really want to keep talking, but I'm not sure what the next best question is. And then just give yourself some time. Like with that situation, I would have said, wow, 13. I would have said, so that's middle school, right? And then I would have introduced my middle school novels.
Right.
No.
We are going to talk about those.
I would have said, I would have asked about, tell me more what that was like for you. Or, wow, whatever comes to mind. And again, you can have warm connections even at baggage claims when it's a 2-minute conversation.
So
And,
true.
all the social science research about the epidemic of loneliness, people just are profoundly disconnected. And, artificial intelligence, ChatGPT, it's making it worse. Like we have this illusion that we're connected, but people are feeling more lonely. They don't have the warm connections that we hoped would. It's getting a little bit better, and I'm excited about the impact of the book. But yeah, people are longing for warm connections.
Yeah.
It's so good for mental and spiritual health.
Yeah, and the level of tension and division in this world right now prompts me to say this line out of your book. It's very memorable, and it says, "You can't hate someone whose story you know."
Yeah, compassion. It's revolutionary. And it makes me think too, like, I don't know, the idea of being unoffendable, Brilliant Hansen,
Yeah.
that material. I don't know. I've just thought, what is the joyful way Jesus has called us to live? Romans 12, the idea of loving your enemies and blessing those who persecute you. How do we get there, And I think part of it is, well, I want to know you. I want to know you and I want to love you. Let's figure this out. So
That's
I don't
good.
know. It's difficult.
Heather, can you reiterate the 3 ways of ending a conversation again before we go to break?
Yes. When you're talking to your conversation partner, you want to be thinking of 3 things. How can I encourage this person? How can I help this person with whatever goals they have, whatever they're working through? And can I lead us to a state of marveling? And it's easier than you think. Just a second ago before this call, a professor called me to talk about a job interview she was offered, but it's because she was rejected from a prior position. And I said, wow, that seems like divine intervention. You got rejected from one job, but here God is opening up another opportunity. Aren't you so grateful that you didn't take that other job? And she was like, yeah, it does seem mysterious. It does seem supernatural. So right away, we got to a spiritual conversation.
Wow, that's great. All right, Dr. Heather Holleman is my guest. We're going to take a break and be right back. If you have a question or a comment, you can text it over 877-933-2484. We carry each other's burdens. Please know you can bring us your prayer concerns and we will pray. Share your prayer requests with the Faith Radio team by texting or calling 877-933-2484 or share your prayer requests with the Faith Radio staff and listeners at myfaithradio.com. So glad to have Dr. Heather Holleman as my guest today. Got a nice note here, Heather, from a listener named Diane. She said, what a fabulous, encouraging interview Bill and Heather are sharing. So helpful for me. Heather's point about people not engaging with others is on point.
It's true.
It is true. So I want to do one of my chestnuts, which every time I talk to you, I love bringing up the way that people don't like the question, how are you doing? Because our brains don't know what to do with that, and it overloads our brains, and we just give a quick kind of answer of, I'm fine.
That's right. You want to put a strong verb in there?
Talk about strong verbs.
Well, I mean, you can do it in real time. I do it in my classroom. I'll say, hey, how was your weekend? And the student will say, fine. But if I just put a strong verb in there that they can picture, I'll say, hey, did anything surprise you about your weekend? And that same student will say, yeah, my grandma came from New Jersey and we made stromboli together. And it really surprised me because, on and on and on they'll go. So put a strong verb in there. So Ash won't ask me, how was your trip? He'll say, hey, what challenged you most? Or what delighted you the most? So after this interview, I'll go upstairs and Ash will say, he won't say, how was the interview? Because I'll say, fine. He'll say, hey, what was different this time with Bill? Like he'll ask me a question I can picture. Mm-hmm. And then we'll have a good conversation around the dinner table.
That's really sweet. Now, I know you've got the upcoming final book of the Alita Brown series. So let's talk about that.
Yes, this is such a delight and the biggest blessing that God has provided. When I started writing for middle grade books, which is, 8 to 12-year olds, really, although many ages read it and it's for boys and girls both, but primarily girls. The fourth book is coming out, so it follows the season. So the first one is the elite seat or the this seat saved, and it's about the moment a little girl starts seventh grade and realizes she doesn't have a seat at the popular table. And it's the journey of how she learns that she's seated at the best table with Jesus. So that book became a bestseller, and you would not believe the delightful little letters I get from readers all over who love this story. It's so fun getting to interact with young readers. And then the second book is Winter, and it's her dealing with jealousy. It's called The Disappearing Seat, when you believe all your blessings from God has disappeared, and he seems to be blessing everyone else. And then the Elite Seat is in the spring. What happens when you do become popular? What is that like, and how do you use that as a resource, and what does God have to say about popularity? And the last book that comes out in July is called This Seat's Yours, and it's when you learn not just that you're seated with Christ, but then you're sent to go be a blessing to other people. So it's about her getting ready for then her start of her eighth grade year and how she's going to invite others to their seat with Jesus.
And when is that final book out?
That one comes out in July, I think
Okay.
July 6th. You can pre-order it on Amazon. But it's really fun to read for summer reading. And then entire classrooms have been reading it. Yesterday, I got to visit an entire class of sixth graders who read it. It was so wonderful, Bill. These students just ask the best questions and they really get into the books. It's so fun. So if you have dreams of writing, again, I recommend writing for sixth graders. Do it.
And let's
Did
talk.
you remember reading as a sixth grader? Do you remember falling in love with books when you were little, or were you not a big reader?
No, I was falling in love with the baseball field, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Well, hey, baseball.
Because I remember in school, like sixth grade, you had to do reading and comprehension.
Yeah.
And you were
Did
so
you hate it?
Oh, I hated it because you were so nervous just reading the paragraph out loud and making sure that you didn't botch the words and mispronounce
That's
any.
right.
Then they would say, "What did you just read?" And I go, "I don't know.
You know what?
I just got through it."
That is hard. That's why one of my dreams is for young people to kind of like fall in love with reading. So I really studied the art of tension and mystery and how to get these readers really engaged in this book so it wouldn't be boring and it'd be fun and they'd learn a lot about the Lord along the way. So I remember when I was that age, I loved Charlotte's Web and The Trumpet of the Swan and the Little House books. So I was a big reader. Do you remember my husband's first book that he ever loved, I think was like Stephen King books.
Oh, wow.
So he wasn't a huge reader until later. What did you ever become a reader?
No,
go ahead.
No, I didn't. Not until I became a much older adult did I care to read.
Fiction, or is it mostly nonfiction?
Nonfiction.
Well, I might have to send some fiction your way. This
Please
might
do.
be my new project.
Please do.
Yes.
Yeah.
No,
yeah.
reading is so good for you. It's so relaxing
No.
to get us off our phones.
I agree.
So,
I agree.
Yeah.
Are these books autobiographical at all?
yes, they're based on some of the things that I experienced as a seventh grader. And I also weave in some of the things I observed as my daughters were going through middle school that they gave
Yeah.
permission to share. But you deal with things like having a first crush, even though you're too young to date. I mean, there's nothing inappropriate in the books. The only thing that may be hard for some parents is there is a bully. And so there's one scene of violence where the bully pushes this girl down, and some homeschool families are like, wait, I want to know before I read, is there any violence? And of course, there are scenes where, my character is alone with a boy, but they're more playing in the woods, which I did all the time.
Yeah.
But you'll love these books. So yeah, they are
Cool.
about her interaction with nature and just how God really helps walk her through seventh grade, which is a really difficult year when you realize you don't have a seat in the lunchroom.
Yeah. And another Heather Holleman greatest hits is what you've encouraged your daughter, what you've said to them when they have been rejected. And I've repeated that many times, but I'll let you say it.
Every rejection is God's protection. I'm telling you, if you can teach children about the theological concept of God's sovereignty and that he does all things well and he's good. And so when something happens to you, you have to believe, okay, this could be God's protection, or it also could be he's so mysterious that in some way he's going to demonstrate his goodness to me through this. But it's a deeply theological concept to really believe that every rejection is God's protection.
Amen. Heather, thank you again. I've loved this conversation. And even Wyatt said during the break, you guys sound like two people sitting at a coffee shop. And that's how I feel.
That's the goal. That's
Yeah.
the goal. You guys need to come to Penn State and come hang out.
Cool. I'll put it on our calendar of things that they won't let us do. Heather, have a great night. My best to
Yes,
Ash.
thank you.
All right.
All right,
Dr.
bye.
Dr. Heather Holleman has been my guest. Please learn more about her at her website, where all of her books are available. You can go check them out, heatherholleman.com. She spells her last name Holleman, heatherholleman.com. That's our show for the day. Thank you so much for spending time. It's been so much fun, and I look forward to being with you tomorrow. It's Guy Talk for both hours, so we'll see you then. Thanks for listening. Programming like this is made available through your support. Information available at myfaithradio.com.